Hey folks, this is Paul talking about A Course in Miracles. Um, what is a body? Why do you have one? Where did it come from? What is the purpose of it? Human bodies are not real. Human bodies don't really exist. Human bodies are illusions and dreams. Human bodies were made as limitations. Human bodies are deception. The body was made to limit you. What you are is not a body. What you are is not physical. What you are is not limited or confined or isolated to certain locations. To properly understand the context in which the mind is different to the body, or your real self is not body-like, you basically have to compare the difference between you being unlimited and whole and eternal and infinite, very, very large, expansive, all-inclusive. There is nowhere that you don't exist. You are everywhere. You are one with everything. That is your natural condition, your natural state, being one with God, one with your brothers. You are the whole kingdom of God. You are very, very large. And when you compare that to the idea of a body is very small. A body is limited. A body is confined. It is exclusive. It is different and unique. It is unlike the others. It doesn't share. It's cut off and separate. It reduces and confines and imprisons. It makes you small. It makes you weak. It disables you. It restricts your powers and your abilities. So as people, we're used to thinking of our bodies like, oh, our bodies are amazing, we can do all these things and blah, blah, blah. But maybe you don't realize just how limited you are from in the opposite perspective when you compare it to how we're supposed to be. The nature of mind is to be everywhere and to be unlimited and to be the universe. When you're supposed to be like that and you're being like this is clearly a limitation. This is a profound reduction in freedoms and abilities and access and capabilities and strengths and powers and expressiveness and joining and relationship. So basically, if you take what is one and you introduced a separation, the separation like a wall or a division or a split makes a little gap, and the body is this idea of separateness. The body is the wall. The body is the gap. It is the space and the time. It is the wish to be separate. It symbolizes separation. It's a separation device. So the body is literally like a wedge or a wall or a thing that is trying to come between what is supposed to be joined and one and shared. This is a very simple logic thing. You take the wholeness and you try to split it up. And each of these splits is a body. The body is the absence of the wholeness. It's not really the presence of a body. It's really the lack of a unity. It's the antithesis, or the opposite of being everything and being everywhere and being one. So in the idea of separation from God, we made that idea kind of turned into bodies. So the body is like saying, I don't want to be everywhere. I don't want to be everything. I don't want to be unlimited. I don't want access to everything or everyone. I want to be separated off, and I want to be confined and limited and small and separate and imprisoned and kept apart. Like the body is literally like a knife stabbing wholeness, trying to make a rift and a gap of hell and a little space where, as Jesus is beholden unto death, a little space where God cannot exist and where you don't share with anyone. Some place you can inhabit all alone by yourself exclusively, where you can stay inside this little circle and this little bubble, surrounded by prison walls of flesh and bones, so that you can stay away from everyone else. That was the whole purpose of making bodies, is to produce these separating offs. So it's not that the body is like an identity or a self, it's that the body is a wall. The body is a dividing line. It's the very idea of interruption and separation and endings and attack and being split-minded and having a tiny bit of mind that isn't connected to the rest of mind, and just being a small little thing instead of infinite, and basically acting as a separation device. It was made to limit you. It was made to imprison you. It was made to cut you off from other people. It was made to so that the body itself has no relationships with others, and then we end up in a situation where you now believe that having a relationship means taking your body and taking it closer to other bodies and using bodies to do body things like speaking and pointing and touching and stuff, and calling this body language and having a seeming interaction between bodies and calling that communication, when all it is two separate walls coming closer to each other and kind of bouncing off each other and talking about how much of a wall they are, how much they've kept themselves away from others today. Quite an accomplishment. So I think a really key thing to realize is that without the idea of separation, you can't have a body. The body completely depends on, is totally an embodiment of the idea of being separated, the idea that you are divided apart from other things. This is not shared. This is kept away, and it's alone and autonomous. The body is like completely an island unto itself, made of the idea of separation. So if you were to erase all separation and completely wipe over these walls and whitewash the whole thing and cancel the separateness and heal the division and the interruption of life, the body is an interruption to eternal life, it would erase the body. So you can't keep this separateness and have it still exist while simultaneously being fully, completely in communion with God in oneness. if God was allowed to be fully present by your mind, it would obliterate space and time and all physicality, because this is all based on being separate and cut off and not sharing and not joining and not loving. The body was made as a limit on love. And it's incompatible with spirit. A mind and a body cannot both exist. So mind is infinite and whole and everywhere, and bodies are the opposite of that. So they cannot stay. You can't keep the body around. You can't keep having a body at the same time as being infinite. This is why God cannot enter a body. As the Course says, God cannot enter a body, nor can you join him there. You can't keep maintaining a separateness, holding on to this idea of I want to have there be something that is dividing, at the same time as having infinite unlimitedness. You can't cram all of God, who is everywhere, into a place that isn't everywhere. God has to be here and there and over there and everywhere all at once. You can't isolate God into one place. So God as a whole cannot be put into a body. God cannot have a body. God does not create the body. God is not the cause of the body. The body was made to oppose God, to be unlike God's nature. So the human body is not a creation of God. It is not a testament to how loving God is. It's not a way of showing God's miracle. It's not, having a baby isn't a blessing from God. It is just a physical object that is worthless and meaningless and is nothing and has no value and was made entirely in an attack on God. That's the body. We should stop putting bodies on pedestals and worshipping them, making them out to be sacred and holy and special. You can't take the body to a point where your mind is so pure and one and holy and experiencing heaven, and have the body still be there. You can't, essentially you cannot be in heaven at the same time as having a body. You can't experience being all of Christ and have the body still be there. You can get close to it. You can have a reflection of heaven on earth. You can reflect God's light into the world through the body and so on. But so long as the body remains, there is still dreaming, because the body is a dream. It's a belief in separation. Without that belief, it does not exist. As Jesus says the body is a dream. So what that means is, in order to have the body be there, there has to be dreaming. Dreaming only happens while you are unconscious. Dreaming only happens when you are in a sleep state or in a state of separation, where you are denying God. So you can't keep a dream when you are awake. So the body has to go. This is pretty simple stuff, but some people seem to have this idea that somehow you can be as God created you to be in a body, and have you still be on the planet as a physical body, in a body, limited to a body, and walk around as if you are unlimited. Unlimited means you are bigger than the universe, and that wholeness cannot be isolated to one spot in space and time. So bodies were made to separate off, and when separation is undone, the body must be undone. The body cannot remain where there is no separation. You can't take the body into heaven You can't, it's like trying to say, I'm going to keep the ego, and I'm going to take the ego and have the ego stay ego-like and have it exist and live in heaven with God, alongside God, while still being ego. It's absolutely impossible. So physicality, the physical world, is an illusion of a world. All bodies are dreams. They're all fiction, fantasy. Your body does not really exist. At no time does the body really exist. and it must be transcended. And transcendent, what's the word? Transcending doesn't mean, oh, here's the thing and I'm going to just go underneath it and transcend it and it's still going to stay there. It means I'm going to erase and dissolve it, and it's going to fade away and disappear. And all that's going to remain is the transcendent state, where there are no bodies. You can't have this state where you're claiming this is a state of no separation, and still have separations. Bodies are images and symbols of separateness. Even when you repurpose the body, even when you're using it for communication and healing and whatever, even when you're using it to bring miracles and a touch of heaven or a piece of Christ or whatever, it's still a limitation. How is it that you're only going to do that with this body? Why can't you, as Christ, express directly through other bodies and control other bodies? But you don't. That doesn't happen. You don't see people being taken over like something from the Matrix with agents. You've been converted and now you're under the control of Christ. There is limitation inherent to the body. So having one must limit you in some way. You can't maintain it and be totally free. Bodies are illusions, and they're made of illusions. And it says this in many different ways across the whole course. The body is a limit imposed on the universal communication, which is an eternal property of mind. The body is a limit on communication, so it was made to narrow down communication. And now we think that communication is this lovely expressive fullness that we all have, and we share and we talk to each other and we wave our hands and we do signs and things and sing and fart and all the rest of it, but smoke signals. But that's not really communication. It's a breakdown in communication. It's a limited form of communication. It's very prone to misunderstanding. There is miscommunication. There's a lack of communication. There's people that have problems talking, language problems, translation problems, messages getting lost. This is not really communication. Now, another angle on this that I want to talk about is the body senses. Jesus says only the body makes the world seem real, which means that since the body is part of the world, the body itself is trying to testify that the body is real. So the body makes your body seem real. Which tells you that it's profoundly biased and cannot be listened to or trusted to tell you whether or not the body is real, because the body is fixated on making illusions seem like reality. It is locked into a false perception. It cannot see past the surface of illusions and dreams. It makes the world seem real. Jesus says the real world, the body is not the means by which the real world can be seen. These eyes made not to see will never see. Never see. Everything the body sees is an illusion and a form of conflict, a form of error. So what happens is, if you think about vision, the idea of vision should be unlimited vision. I can see everything at all times, everywhere. That's the the fullest possible seeing, unlimited vision. I can see everywhere that exists. I can see everything that exists all at once without limitation of any kind. That's the fullest awareness that the mind has, that it can be aware of infinity, all of the kingdom, that God can always, the soul never leaves the sight of God, no matter where it is, no matter what the distance. God is always seeing and aware of everything that has ever been created, no matter the seeming size. So full vision means I can see everything without limits. Bodies were made to limit sight. They were made, so they have this form of seeing that seems like sight because it can see some things, but the body's eyes depend on the laws of physics and on the photons and what Jesus calls the outside surface of nothing. These bodies look, they look, and then the light stops at the outside surface of nothingness. So like an object, my hand, here you can't see my face because the photons are bouncing off of my hand and going into your eyes. So while my hands are in the way, you can't see my face. While my face is in the way, you can't see what's behind my head. So physical objects are made to block vision. They're made as obstacles to sight. They're made so that you can't see. So the physical material world and the body were made as a limitation on seeing, so that you would not be able to see anything except the thing that's in front of you, where you have this very narrow vision, this very focused, isolating, imprisoning vision that as soon as it registers an object, it stops and is blocked by the object. Like right now I'm looking at the back of a desk and I cannot see through it. I can't see the chair that's behind it. I can't see the wall that's behind it, because you can't see my flesh underneath this t-shirt. You can't see what's out the window because the light's too bright. You can't see what's behind these walls, because that's how we limited sight, so that anything physical would stop you from seeing. So these eyes made not to see will never see. So we made these eyes, physical, biological eyeballs, separation devices, not to see, but in order to blind you so that you cannot see. So these eyes cannot see through objects. They cannot see what is far away. They cannot see everything everywhere all the time. So they are not unlimited in their seeing. They have a very, very small, limited little form of seeing that is a parody of seeing and really is an attempt not to see. These eyes they're made not to see. So everybody thinks, oh, look at all the things I can see. Look how unlimited my seeing is. I can see over there and over there. I have 20/20 vision. I have brilliant eyesight. My eyes are just amazing, aren't they? Fuck that, because they are not seeing a huge, huge amount of stuff that you could be seeing. They cannot see the other side of the universe. They cannot see what's happening on other planets. They are very, 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 very limited and confined to this little tiny area. And as soon as anything blocks your sight, nothing so blinding as perception of form, you are stopped from seeing. So we should not keep exalting the body and making out that the body's fantastic when its form of sight is ridiculous in how small and tiny it is and how much it stops you. The same thing happens with your other senses. These ears were made not to hear. So right now I can hear some kind of vehicle. I can't hear the hospital down the street. I can't hear the crowds cheering in a stadium. I can't hear the rumbling of a star. I can't hear the music playing down the road. I can't hear anybody's televisions that they're probably switched on. I can't hear anybody talking right now. These ears are not hearing everything that there is to be heard. They are very, very limited and confined. They were made not to hear. So they are stopped because the radiation, the sound waves in the air are dispersed and broken down and dispelled and diffused to the point where I can only still hear things that are close by. So I can hear my own fingers snapping. I can hear my voice. I can't even hear what my wife is in the other room watching TV. I can't even hear it. So it's not because I'm deaf. My hearing is quite good. But the body was made so that you will not hear everything that there really is to hear. So it's a parody of hearing. They are very, very much designed to make you not hear things. And just like the eyes, they make you hear far less than all the stuff that you don't hear. And you don't see a whole ton of stuff compared to what you do see. So like this fraction of a percentage. I mean, you've got other senses, smells and touches and stuff, and they're all profoundly limited. So because they focus on the outside form of nothingness and they're blocked by objects, and you can't, it's like there's a nothingness there. Physical objects are nothing. The body is nothing. Or if you remember, it's a separation device. It's trying to come between and split apart something that is whole. So it's really the absence of the wholeness. It's a lack of the wholeness, like a shadow or a darkness. It's not the presence of a body. It's a lack of a body, or it's a lack of a self, a lack of a presence. So the body is really like an empty space, which is why it introduces space-time. It's a gap. It's like an anti-creation. So I wasn't going to make a video today. I wasn't feeling like I had anything to talk about, but I guess we're just going with it. So for all the things that the bodies seem to be able to do, all the freedoms that they seem to have, you can move the body somewhere and make it touch things. You can make it move things. You can draw pictures. You can lift objects. You can feed the body. You can look at different things. You can hear different sounds and all this stuff. And everybody's all excited about, oh, let me go on a vacation and see some new sights. Let me explore the world. Let me see all the things I've never seen. let me hear some new music. I want to hear the sounds that I've never heard before, because I couldn't hear the everything the first time. So now I need to go do some more of it. It's like becomes a whole life. This whole life of I'm starting out small. I lack so much that it now seems like there's something to be gained. And I can go somewhere and do things and see things, and somehow this is an exploration of the great scope of the universe and all the things there are to be seen and heard. Excuse me while I blow some very limited amounts of air out of the body. So in its proper perspective, the body is extraordinarily limiting. Now the mind can work through the body, and the mind can extend past the body, and the mind can decide that the body doesn't limit it. But you can only go so far with that. You can go to true perception. You can go to the real world or the forgiven world where you still have a body, but the body is limiting you the least possible, which is not the same as unlimited at all. So like even Jesus is walking around still limited to seeing and hearing only the things in his local vicinity, still isolated to one location, still unable to be everywhere at once. So if you want to really truly transcend bodies, really truly be one with God, be fully open to the fullest experience, the most unlimited you can be, which is your natural state of mind, free from limitations and blockages and restrictions and everything that comes with that, the lack of freedom, the imprisonment. You have to go totally beyond bodies. I am not a body, I am free. So that tells you bodies are prisons. They are a limitation on your freedom. You cannot hang on to. A lot of people have this idea that they can keep the body and be free, or that it just means I'm gonna be free within the body. I'm gonna be at peace, but I'm gonna have a body. It's not possible. Your body has to go. When it is recognized as an illusion, it must disappear. And you're gonna leave the body. This body, the body, everybody's bodies are made of death. It's made of an idea of I don't want to live. This is why they're not really life forms, they're death forms. There is no life outside of heaven. Outside of heaven, everything is illusion. At best, it's an illusion of life. At worst, death. This body is an attempt to be separate from God. The mind is imagining itself or its identity to be separate, and that forms and produces and causes a body to show up. So it cannot show up when mind is whole. So at some point, as Jesus says, the body cannot enter heaven. If the body could remain at the same time as heaven, God would have had to have created it. It would have to not be in any way a separation. But separation is not compatible with heaven. There is no separation in oneness. So there cannot be bodies. There's no foundation to attach bodies to. There's no guilt. There's no spatial separation, there's no time, there's no... See, a body is an idea that what is here is not over there. This is separate from that. This body is separate from your body. When was the last time you saw two bodies merge into one? Never. If you tried to do that, there'd be an atomic explosion which would annihilate bodies. So this body depends on the space, the white space, the empty space around the body. It depends on the gap of space and distance and time and delay between this and another body or another object. Without that separation, without that gap, without space and time, it cannot exist. You can't have there be atoms and molecules and cells and organs and things here that are not over there and are not everywhere without the idea of being separate. There has to be some kind of breaking apart and separating off and isolating, focusing in one place to have a body. So this body is an attack upon the whole. It's an attack upon God, and it was made in the separation to... The world was made as an attack on God. The body is part of the world. The body was made as an attack upon yourself, upon the whole. Without the attack, there cannot be a body. You don't need bodies. To be without a body is to be in your natural state, totally without a body. Don't need one. Don't need a body. Think not that the world can add anything to the power of God and the glory of God and His holy sons. The physical world has not added a single thing of any value to the kingdom of God, because it is all nothing. It is an illusion. There is no world. There is no body. The body is a limit imposed on the universal communication. You can be one with something beyond the body. Now this is important. The bodies cannot join because they're separate. They have to maintain their separateness in order to still be bodies. This should be understood by everybody. This is a simple enough common sense fact. You can't join bodies together, otherwise they will stop being bodies. They depend on staying apart. They are like a withdrawal away from others. So joining and sharing and oneness and love and unity and minds being one and identification with your brother, oneness with God, cannot take place on the physical level. So in order to join, you have to go beyond the body. The body is not the means by which the real world can be seen. You can't use the body to join in mind. Your mind is not a part of your body. A mind and a body cannot both exist. This body is a picture in the mind. It's just an image. It's a fake image, an illusion of a body. It's a picture of a body. It's not actually a body. It's just an image. It's like a three-dimensional photograph, animation in a dream. It's not a real body. It's a pretend image of what a body might look like. Because real bodies don't exist. So in order to have any awakening, any spiritual progress, any healing, any communication, any relationship must transcend bodies. Two bodies coming together is not relationship. Two bodies being close together is not relationship or companionship. Two bodies talking to each other is not really communication. Bodies do not join. They are fundamentally separate. Even when they're close, even when they're far, they're still separate. They're holding on to imprisonment. Two prisons coming together does not allow you to be free. You can't still be a prisoner and claim that you have freedom. So to in any way wake up, in any way to make progress, to forgive, to join, to heal, to be sane, to share, to communicate, to relate, to join, to be one with somebody, to identify as Christ, to remember that you're the whole sonship, requires you to go beyond bodies and to not use the body to do these things necessarily, that they have to take place in the mind. It's your mind that is everywhere. It's your mind that is joined. It's your mind that communicates. It's your mind that identifies. It's your mind that has relationships. It's minds that join. Miracles make minds one in God. It is at the mind level that all life exists, not the physical. So any kind of spiritual path has to take you beyond the body. Has to be a movement towards disidentifying from the body, not being a body, not seeing yourself as a body, not focusing on the body, not focusing on other people's bodies, not thinking that your body cuts your mind off and that your mind is body-like, that your sense of what am I, who am I, where am I is defined by or limited by the body. The mind has to transcend everything about the body, which means transcending even the idea that you're stuck in one place. Your fixed location, as Jesus says in the Course, she's trying to dislodge you from your fixed location. Even the idea that I'm only here and you're only over there is a separation. It keeps us apart. The idea that I am not where you are and I don't occupy the same space as you is a separation. It is a breakdown in communication, and it is not love. So in order to do this course, in order to accept atonement, in order to heal or anything true and real is going to require you to stop seeing yourself as an object, as an anchor in space-time, and to go beyond the walls of your body, go beyond the limitations of your physicalness. It requires you. There's no way to access anything with the body. The body is literally physically cutting you off if you allow the body to define you. It is saying, I'm here, I'm only here, and I'm not sharing anything with you over there. 100% separate. So if you want to have any kind of oneness, any kind of joining, relationship or anything, it has to entail my identity, myself, my mind, my thought, my love has to expand beyond the confines of this prison cell and incorporate and include other people, other places. Your mind is not limited to the body. Your mind is not limited to one place in space and time. There is no reason why your mind cannot access everything, everywhere, at all times. But the body was made to limit you. Let's see. It is only the awareness of the body that makes love seem limited. So you can't really say, oh, I love your body. I love you as a body. I see your body and it makes me love you. That's bullshit, because awareness of the body literally narrows your mind and separates off. And if I look at somebody's body and I say, I love you, you're talking about their body. You're not talking about the person, the mind, the soul. You're saying, I love your body. I have a special relationship with your body. I am pretending that I love it when I'm still separate. And focusing on their body focuses my mind on my body and makes me even more limited. For the body is a limit on love. The belief in limited love was its origin. It was made to limit the unlimited. Think not that this is merely allegorical, for it was made to limit you. Can you who see yourselves as within a body know yourself as an idea? Everything you recognize, you identify by externals. You cannot even think of God without a body. So we've become obsessed with the blindness of perception of form, focusing on the form of objects, the shape, the color, the texture, the size, the movement, the way that it's different, the way that it's separate. And we take that to mean something, and we say, this is what it is, this is what it means. And that focuses your whole perception on this narrow, blinding inability to see that causes you not to be aware of the whole. The more you focus on bodies, the less you are aware of God. And the less you're aware of yourself. So your whole sense of who am I, what am I, must not be tied up in the physical body. You shouldn't be saying, I am a man, I am a woman, I am gay, I am straight, I am black, I am white, I am brown, I am Chinese, I am English, I am Australian, I am overweight, I am skinny, I am ugly, I am beautiful. Any of these things are all to do with the body. And you cannot find happiness and peace and self-esteem and contentment and a sense of knowing who you are by trying to find it in the body. This is not yourself. Your body is not who you are. It is the opposite of who you are. Your body was made to deceive you. It was made to be a picture of who you are not. This is not me. I've had other bodies in other lifetimes. None of them are me. So any sense of identity, any sense of where am I, what am I, what am I made of, what is my nature, if that ever involves and includes the body, you're delusional. You're limited. This is how your mind uses the body to limit itself. See, the body is like fundamentally a prison. So if your mind says, I am body-like, the body defines me, I'm made of physical objects, your mind narrows because it now identifies itself. It thinks that it's like a body. When the mind doesn't identify with the body and knows that it is not a body, it doesn't in any way allow the body to define what it is. But by simultaneously knowing itself to be whole and unlimited and everywhere and transcendental and infinite, that it leaves no possibility for bodies to exist at all. It is the denial of bodies. Mind is a denial of physicality. The world you see must be denied. The body is a limit on love. It was made to limit you. God cannot come into a body, nor can you join him there. Limits on love will always seem to shut him out and keep you apart from him. The word always is in uppercase letters. Limits on love. Bodies will always shut God out. You cannot join with God in a body. You can't say, I'm going to have walls and I'm going to be inside the walls, caused to be inside the walls by the walls, and simultaneously claim that I am outside the walls everywhere with God. The walls are incompatible with God. The body is incompatible with God. If you want to be one with God, you cannot have a physical body. Where is Jesus? Where is Jesus' physical body? This is why he ascended into heaven. This is why his body disappeared. He doesn't need a body. The body doesn't add anything to you, who you really are, because all it does is limit you. It's like saying, I think I'm going to have an amazing body. I'm going to have a muscular body. I'm going to have a beautiful body. I'm going to do my hair, put on some makeup. I'm going to decorate my body with special clothing and all this stuff and make it look like it's a hero in the dream. Make it look like it's adored. It's going to be a celebrity body. Everybody's going to worship it. Oh, your body is fantastic. Not realizing that simultaneously that is a blasphemy against who you are. It is cutting you down. It is violating your true nature. It is covering you up. It is making this nice picture to deceive yourself and others so that nobody sees you. Nobody is aware of who you really are because you have this facade of physical persona that is standing there as a picture of crucifixion telling you, this is who I am. In the Course, Jesus literally says in the Course, now in the hands made gentle by his touch, the Holy Spirit lays a picture of a different you. It is a picture of a body still, for what you are cannot be seen or pictured. I think that's pretty much accurate. And so what this means is you as a spirit, as a soul, cannot be seen with the physical eyes. You are not physical. You don't exist in a physical universe. And the physical was made to attack you. The world is a picture of the crucifixion of God's Son. So the Holy Spirit heals the body and produces a temporary image, a picture of a body, which temporarily stands in and is used as a tool for teaching and healing and so on. Because what you are cannot be seen or pictured. So when you start saying, looking in a mirror with the body, and the body looks at the body and says, oh, how great I am, you're deceiving yourself. So we made the body in attempting to deceive ourselves as to who we are. The body is like a fake self. It's like an artificial person. Jesus says something about, the body walks around in the dream as the hero of the dream, as if it were a person to be seen and believed. So it's like when you look at somebody's body, you've got to start telling yourself that's not a person. That body is a camouflage. It is covering them up. That's not what they look like. Even the eyes are physical walls. You are not seeing anything of me as you look at this picture. This body is a cover, a costume, a vehicle. And in here, and around here, is what I really am, which you, as a physical seeing object, cannot see it, because your body is not seeing all of reality. So it cannot see that. You are not limited by the body. If your mind interprets it as a limitation, you are imposing a limitation on yourself. But that doesn't mean if you don't interpret the body as a limitation, it allows the body to be compatible with your mind. No. Never, ever, ever. This body depends on separateness. It requires space and time. Without spatial separation, this body cannot be here instead of over there. It would disperse, and it would be nowhere. It requires ideas of isolation and specialness and selfishness and not sharing. This body, this object of containment, is an idea of, I'm not going to be where you are. I'm not going to share with you. So to have sharing, you can't truly keep the body. The body cannot enter heaven. So it's part of the space-time belief. It's part of the separation idea. This body is an idea of who you are not. Jesus says the body is the idea of what you think you are. When you're thinking that you are something that you are not, your mind produces an image of a body. So this isn't me, and your body isn't you. The body is a limit. Who would seek for freedom in a body? Anyone who would seek for freedom in a body looks for it where it cannot be found. The mind can be made free when it no longer sees itself as in a body, firmly tied to it, sheltered by its presence. If this were the truth, the mind would be vulnerable indeed. So if you could have a compatibility where the mind is allowed to be unlimited and the body is simultaneously limited, and the mind is able to somehow, makes no sense at all, but somehow confine itself to the body and say, I'm in a body, I'm tied to the body, sheltered by its presence. If mind could be merged or coexist with the body at the same time, everything that applies to the body would apply to the mind. The idea that the mind is the body is absolute bullshit. It's the opposite of the truth. Body was made as a rejection of mind. The body was made to try to shut out the mind. And the brain is not the mind. The brain is an opposite of a mind. Some people call it a transceiver or a filter, or it's kind of like a relay device or a stepping down device or whatever. It's just a bit of machinery on a physical level. As Jesus says, it's ridiculous to think that the brain can think, or that the ears can hear. the eyes can see. That if you understood the nature of thought, you would know that it would be ridiculous to suggest that brains can think. It's being shown now in neurobiology and stuff that long-term memories are not stored anywhere in the brain. It's ridiculous to think that little physical neurons and synapses and things that take ages to connect to each other through physical movements could be thoughts in the mind, or somehow brains are connecting and joining cells together, and that these are somehow thoughts. It's just ridiculous. The body is against the mind. The way that if mind is everything, the body is nothing. The mind is everywhere, the body is nowhere. Mind is unlimited expansiveness. Bodies are confinement and limitation. The nature of the body is to separate. The nature of mind is to join. They are totally incompatible. If you could somehow merge the mind with the body, which would be required in order to have them both at the same time, the mind would literally be subject to the laws of physics, which now means that because bodies can be attacked, nothing real can be threatened, and the body can be threatened because it's not real. Mind would be vulnerable if it were possible for the mind and the body to unite and be one. The ego is trying to unite the mind and the body, anchoring your mind to a body, connecting mind to a body, keeping you in a body, trying to suggest that you don't have a mind, that your mind doesn't in any way go beyond the walls of the prison, that your mind is not connected to other minds. Your mind does not communicate with other minds, other beings. The ego is the whole notion of, I'm going to try to shut out the mind. So because the body is a symbol of the ego, and it's a symbol of separation, the ego sees the body as an ally and a friend, as the ego's chosen home, because the body has a nature that is like the ego. It is based on limitation and isolation, separation, not sharing, selfishness, lack of communication, no relationship, autonomy. And so the ego sees itself as compatible with the body, and so it sort of the mind congests, narrows, and hides seemingly in or as a body, as a wish to be separate. So that the mind is like hiding from God, and it's saying, I'm going to put up a wall around the mind and hide here in the body and pretend that I am not with God, and God is not allowed in here. So the ego is very much in favor of the idea that you can be fully awake in mind while having a body, because that means that the mind and the body are one, and therefore the mind can be attacked. That's why it's not possible. This is why God cannot enter a body, and you can't join God in a body. At some point, in order to ascend to heaven and wake up from dreaming, in which the body is a dream, you're gonna have to go beyond bodies forever. That is the end of reincarnation, getting off the cycle of birth and death, no longer needing bodies for any purpose. As Jesus says in the Course, once the purpose of the body is complete, who would want to keep it? It's insane to have a notion that the body has actual inherent value. Only the mind has value. The body is a rejection of value. It's like a selfish bastard. It rejects any kind of meaningfulness. The body is a limit. The ego holds the body dear because it dwells in it and lives united with the home that it has made. So as your mind becomes selfish, exclusive, unsharing, breaking down communication, separating off, narrowing, it starts to form the belief and the visualizing and the sense of self that it is a limited thing. It's a thing that doesn't share. It's a thing that is cut off. It's a thing that isn't a part of other things. And that materializes effectively symbolically as a physical body. So the ego mind kind of manifests a body and maintains the body and then attacks the body and kills it. But it's like that's why the ego has chosen the body as its home, or has sort of made bodies as a way to stay separate. So everything you want to do is the opposite. You want to be free from bodies. You want to be bigger than bodies, moving beyond bodies, joining without bodies. Let's see what else we can find here. The ego's fundamental wish is to replace God. In fact, the ego is the physical embodiment of this wish, which sort of tells you similarly that the ego, this mind, this narrow-mindedness, produces the body. It is the body in a sense, for it is this wish to be separate from God and replace God which seems to surround the mind with a body, keeping it separate and alone and unable to reach other minds except through the body that was made to imprison it. The limit on communication cannot be the best means to expand communication, but the ego would have you believe that it is. So the ego mind wishes to be separate. This wishing causes a body to appear. And so the body now symbolizes the wish to be separate. So without the wish to be separate, there are no bodies. God, can those who are created like him be limited? The body is the symbol of the world. Leave it behind. It cannot enter heaven. You can enslave a body, but an idea is free, incapable of being kept in prison or limited in any way, except by the mind that thought it. The body itself is a sacrifice. If there is focus on the body, it is always an attempt to limit. When you are Holy Spirit, you no longer see yourself as a body or even as in a body. Therefore you are limitless, and being limitless, God's thoughts are joined with God forever. There's many quotes talking about limitation, limitedness, how the body limits you. Limiting yourself to a body, purity is not of the body, nor can it be found where limitation is. It goes on and on and on and on about the limitation of the body. For the body is little and limited, and only those whom you would see without the limits that the ego would impose on them can you offer the gift of freedom. Bodies cannot join. The idea that bodies can join is impossible. To join two bodies together is like saying, I'm going to undo the body. There's so many quotes. The special relationship is a device for limiting yourself to a body and limiting your perception of others to theirs. The great rays would establish the total lack of value of the special relationship and the body if they were seen. For in seeing them, the body would disappear because its value would be lost, and your whole investment in seeing it would be withdrawn from it. So Jesus here is literally saying that once you get to a point where you really want to see with vision, with unlimited seeing, and no longer be limited by physical objects blocking your sight, no longer looking at bodies, no longer seeing bodies at all, no longer valuing bodies, you'll no longer even want to see the body. And this will cause the body to disappear. And once the body has disappeared, you will be able to fully see your brother's spirit being, his soul. So it's quite clear and obvious that bodies are not compatible with God. God did not create the body. The body is clearly a limit on love. God did not create it. The body is clearly a device for separation, and therefore it does not exist. God did not create the body. The body is clearly destructible and therefore not of the kingdom. There's so many ways Jesus talks about, I'm going to put this down, how your body is basically the opposite of your true nature. It was designed, the body is the idea of sin made flesh and projected outwards. It's like your body is not real. It's not a part of God. It's not a part of the kingdom. If the body is destructible and not part of the kingdom, that tells you that this body and this hair, and if I take this hair and put it on the ground, and I take some skin and put it on the ground is now partly also part of the body, not part of the kingdom. If this body eats some food and produces some waste, that is not part of the kingdom. The air that this body is breathing is not part of the kingdom. The things that this body is seeing is not part of the kingdom. The sounds that I'm hearing are not part of the kingdom. All of this testifies and shows you very simply and obviously, it should be freaking obvious, that this world is not the kingdom of God. Not just is my body made to limit and separate, all objects are made to limit and separate. They all have the same characteristics. The physical planet is not part of God's kingdom. It is not a creation of God. It was made so that you are homeless. It was made to have somewhere that you don't exist. Jesus talks about in the Course how it's a place that you made in order for people to come and question who it is they are. A place where the eternal come to die. So or a place where God could enter not. So this world is essentially, when you put it in its proper light, in its proper perspective, it is the absence of everything that should be. It's the lack of what should exist. It's the antithesis of true nature. It's the Antichrist. It is an opposite to heaven. It is unlike God. It is not like mind. It was made as an attack upon the mind, as an attack upon the Son of God. It was made to limit you. It was made to make you seem to be a tiny speck of dust, as Jesus calls it. A little tiny little fragment, isolated by space and time and beholden unto death and anchored in one place, so that you are cut off from others. That the body's able to move around. Okay, so what? You can learn to ride a bicycle, you can drive a car, you can fly an airplane, you can pilot a spaceship. Whoop-de-doo. When you've put that in its proper perspective, these things are tiny. Everything in the world is little because it's made of the idea of littleness. When you put it in its proper big perspective, this world is very lacking. It is artificially imposed limitation. Somebody made up a bunch of rules. Somebody made up the laws of physics. Somebody invented space as a separation device to say what is supposed to exist everywhere doesn't exist anywhere, and what exists here doesn't exist over there, and this world is the negation of existence. And time was made up by somebody to say you cannot be everywhere at once, and what always exists doesn't exist always, and what used to exist has died, and what exists now is going to be killed off. The world of time in which all things die. This whole world, all physicality, which is physical, we're not just going to frickin' reframe it and say, oh, these are just thoughts, or this is mind, or this is energy. We're just going to keep it simple. The physical world, these objects, everything about these objects, their size, their shape, the materials, their form, their appearance, the color, the movement, the biology, the mechanisms, the bones and the muscles and whatever else. This entire object does not exist at all. Nothing about it is a part of God's kingdom. Not a single speck of it is real. It was made to oppose reality. You are not a body. You are free. You are free of bodies. Your spirit would become joyful and happy to know that it is no longer confined to a little prison. So we imposed upon ourselves horrendous degrees of limitation. We who are supposed to be everywhere, sharing with everyone, being one with everything, having everything, accessing everything, seeing everything, knowing everything, we thought, I know, I'm just going to resist all that and deny it and imprison myself. I'm going to block my freedom. I'm going to use my freedom to try not to be free. And I'm going to impose upon myself a limitation. And every possible degree of that limitation until I'm a speck, until there's almost nothing left of me. Until I seem to be a tiny little thing walking around in a tiny little world. And thinking this is normal. So now within this world, you have what we call the laws of physics. And these, people accept these as somehow this is the scope of freedom, as if this is what you're able to do, that you're still able to move around. You can go somewhere in your car, you can eat some food, you can walk down a street, you can watch a TV show, blah, blah, blah. Thinking this is like a free life. And you're living the life, you're having the American dream, you're having a career, you're having a family, and you're doing all this stuff, and you've got this house and all this money and all these things. Thinking that somehow this buys you freedom and this gives you everything there is to have. And what you have is a speck of nothing. That all the kings and queens think that they somehow own and rule over kingdoms that are real and have value, and they don't mean a single thing. It's all illusions. That people taking possession of and fighting over territories and having wars about countries, fighting over nothing, scraps of nothingness, lacks and limitations and scarcities, thinking that there are value and worth defending. The body is hardly worth the least defense. Nothing as it is, the body cannot be meaningfully invested with the attributes of Christ or the ego. So, essentially, this world is nothing. It seems to be something, but it's an illusion of nothing. So, we seem to live in a world of heavy limitation. Can't break the speed of light. You can't move a certain speed without a certain amount of energy. Can't seem to walk through walls. You're stopped by physical objects. Communication only goes so far. Signals get blocked. You can't seem to fly because the law of gravity seems to suck you down. These are artificial limitations. These are not things that you should be limited by. This is why Jesus could walk on water, because he broke the laws of space and time. And this is where miracles come in. Because a mind that knows that it is whole, a mind that knows that it's not a body, becomes miraculous. It regains its power. It becomes one with God. It gains access to freedoms. It transcends limitations. It becomes able to break the laws of space and time. As the Course says, miracles violate every law of physical reality as the world perceives it. Miracles violate the laws of reality. So Jesus showed that this is true, that you can multiply food, you can levitate, you can move through walls, you can be in multiple places at once, you can change the weather, you can heal the sick, you can give body parts that are missing, you can raise the dead, you can walk on water, you can multiply objects, you can turn one thing into another thing. These are all miraculous expressions of miracles, because he's demonstrating and trying to show you you are not bound by these limitations. Miracles are teaching devices. They're supposed to show that you are not limited. You can transcend, overcome, bend, and rewrite all of the laws of the world. You should not be confined to one place. You should not be disabled from seeing everywhere. You should be able to hear everything at a distance. You should be able to be with everyone at all times. You should be able to have everything that you want. You should be able to cause anything to happen. Myself is ruler of the universe. Nothing comes to me unbidden by myself. What happens is what I desire. What does not happen is what I do not want to happen. We're supposed to be powerful, transcendental, unified, sharing, loving, whole, masterful, world-defying beings. whose nature is nothing like these little limited machines that we walk around in, and we pretend that this is who we are when we get all excited about all the things they can do. Oh, look at all the special tricks that I've taught myself like a dog. Look at all the amazing makeup and perfumes and hair colors and styles that I've come up with. Look at all the dances that I've performed and the songs that I've sung and all of the ways that I've become competitive in sports and run fast and scored goals and all these things that we seem to celebrate as amazing achievements, and everybody claps their hands. But this isn't being negative, but these things are profoundly limited. The only reason you can have games and competitions is because there is severe limitation. So without the limitation, there can be no rules, and there can be no competition without rules and limits. So what you do is you impose a limitation first, and then you keep the limitation, and then you play within the limits. And that produces what we call a game. And then you have sports, and then and we think this is amazing, like somehow we're experiencing the fullest possible expression of what it is to be human. Absolute fucking bullshit. This is horrendously limiting. When I had an experience of God and almost left my body completely, and was willing to, the attraction to him was so strong, I just wanted to go to him. And without a second thought, it wasn't even that it needed thought to decide whether to do that. It was a spontaneous, fundamental reaction that I knew God was everything that I ever wanted, and that everything else was a limitation that I was instantly happy to leave behind. And it just showed me that when I came back from the experience, and it took some weeks for it to wear off, mostly wear off, I felt like I was being brain damaged. I felt like I was being shoved back into a prison. I was outside of the prison cell. I felt like my mind was being reduced down, isolated, that I was having blinders put over my eyes, that I was being locked inside a cell, surrounded by a wall of darkness that was shutting out awareness of God, making me unable to be aware of his love anymore, which was depressing, and then locked into this suit and peering out through the eyes as if like you've put on a scuba gear and your whole person is surrounded with this costume that you're like strapped in and forced, like almost like your head is forced into place so that you have to look at what your head is pointing towards. It was so limiting. It was such a sense. It felt like being brain damaged or having like some kind of horrible disability imposed upon you. That's what it felt like to come back into the body. It was not pleasant. It was not a happy thing to sort of reincarnate as a physical into a physical limited thing. It was very, very limiting and very isolating, and it felt like these people wearing virtual reality goggles, and it's like you're like strapped into this roller coaster ride, and you're forced to be exposed and to look at scenes that are pumped into your face with no choice. That's what it's like being in a body. compared to the freedom and the awareness and the expansiveness and the love that you can experience when the body isn't limiting you. So we should work on not constantly thinking, oh, human life is amazing, look at all the ways we're expressing ourselves, look at all the creations, all the things we're making, look at the skills that we're developing, the physical skills, look at all the abilities we have, look at all the achievements, all the celebrity, look at the heroes and the idols and all this stuff. It's like, wait a minute, this is all profoundly limited compared to what we really should be doing. Our true potential is massively beyond these small little body landscapes, these little caricatures, these little scenes in which bodies get to be heroes and people clap their hands and, oh, you've done the great thing and you've sung in a great way and you're an excellent movie star and you're a sports celebrity and you're a this and a that, and it's all body worship. And the more that we focus on bodies, the more insane we become. The more we focus on bodies, the more we become selfish and special and think that we have a value that we don't have, and we feel empty and alone and separate. We become more autonomous, we become more alone, more thinking that we are cut off from other people, we can't maintain relationship, there's a breakdown in communication, there's a mind becomes stunted and disabled, and you impose sickness upon yourself. The more that we focus on bodies, the more we become dead. The more you isolate and think, I am only here and I can only do what this body can do. That is like a death sentence. It's like putting yourself in jail. So the human race is not fulfilling its potential. It's living inside a little box. And inside this little box there's all these little activities, these little busy little activities that everybody thinks is freaking amazing and fantastic, and they are profoundly, profoundly limited. People don't want to get outside the box, get outside the body, get outside the body identity. Stop believing that you are your body. Stop worshipping how you look. Stop trying to make out that your body is freaking fantastic and that everybody wants to see it. It's like this is just a continuation of where society is going. This civilization is going downhill as everybody is becoming more and more and more separate. And the solution is not to reconnect with nature. Bullshit. It's not just that you're separate from nature, physically separated off from nature. You can be in nature and still be separate. Your body doesn't join with nature. You don't become the nature. It's your mind has to do something different. Your mind needs to transcend nature. It needs to go beyond plants and animals and food and mountains and rivers and landscapes. There is no growth unless it's moving in the direction away from bodies. There is no willingness unless you're moving towards God. There is no progress in society or civilization or whatever you want to call this spectacle of physicality unless the minds are joining more than they were. There has to be more love. There has to be more unity. There has to be more togetherness. Not necessarily physical. There has to be more relationship, more communication, more cooperation. Jesus says in the Course, cooperation is required, is a miraculous thing to cooperate. There has to be more equality, and that does not mean physical equality. There's no such fucking thing as physical equality. My body does not look identical to any other body on the planet. And it never will. This body is different. It is unique. It is separate. It is unlike. It is lacking what other bodies have. It will not ever have what other bodies have. You will never be like other people if you keep focusing on bodies. You will never. See, then you like to compare yourself to other bodies and say, I want to be like them. You shouldn't do that. That's putting yourself down. You shouldn't be saying, I am going to be a body and I'm going to be like this template of a body over here. I worship this hero and I'm going to be like them. It should be more that I'm not going to be a body. I'm not going to identify myself as my physical form. I'm not going to say that this is how I look, or this is what I am, or this is what I'm capable of, or my value is based on the work that I do, or having to work frickin' 100 million hours just to have value. Gaining the whole world and losing your soul. Gaining a body and losing a soul. There's no spirituality in that. So this materialism, this focus on the physical, this dependency on form, this believing that the form that something takes tells you what it means and how valuable it is, that a little lump of gold is more important and valuable than a lump of dirt. Neither of them are worth anything, and they're not worth having. The world is filled with garbage, or what we should say is just basically nothing. Emptiness and lack and illusions of shininess and rarity. It's because of the rarity that diamonds are valuable. It's because of the lack and the scarcity and the sacrifice and the limitation and the littleness that we value diamonds and think, oh, these are freaking the most valuable things because they're hard to find. And look at how they are, and they're nice and shiny, and they attract you, and you think, this is important. I've got to have a big one on my finger. I've got to have one in my ear. I've got to have one around my neck to make my body seem more valuable. Insanity and bullshit. There's no diamonds in heaven. There's no little rocks that you think are worth something and are worth having and keeping. When the body dies, who gives a fuck about your diamonds? So the crown jewels. I went to Windsor Castle one time when I went back over to England many years ago, and saw the crown jewels. And oh, here's a crown, and it's in a big box, and it's surrounded by glass, and it's on a shiny cushion, a velvet cushion, and there's ropes around the edge, and you're not allowed to get close to it. And there's guards with guns standing around in case anybody tries to steal it or break into it. All to protect something that is not worth anything whatsoever. And only the body's eyes could make it seem as though it's valuable. Oh, it's shiny, and it's sparkly, and it's a nice color. And I have never seen something like that. I want one of those. I'm going to get one for myself. And we're coming up on Black Friday, and it's going to be another mad, insane rush of buying shit. where people suddenly think external salvation. I must have the latest technology. It's going to magically save me. I must have this. I've got to get as many of those as I can. I'm going to get some deals. I'm going to benefit greatly. I'm going to be saved by illusions. And these things are going to be worth having, and I'm going to just celebrate how much I'm giving of value. It's not worth anything. The world has nothing to give. So this all comes from body mindsets, trying to be a body, identifying as a body, living like you're a body, having a lifestyle of bodies, relating to bodies, communicating only on a bodily level, doing what bodies do, being a hero in a dream, being a victim, being a victimizer, working, doing, making, a very limited existence, fundamentally. Even the most expressive lifestyle, with the most money, and the most parties, and the most friends, and the most houses, and all the rest of it, is still profoundly limited. Way, way, way more limited than people realize. You're supposed to have everything. You're supposed to be accessible to everything. You're supposed to share everything that exists. You're supposed to inherit all of God. You're supposed to be the entire kingdom of heaven. You're supposed to be unlimited and everywhere, able to see and hear everything that happens everywhere at once. Omnipresence. That's your true nature. We are blinded and deceived by this body world, this insane world of body worship. We have to deprogram ourselves from all of this constant fixation on bodies. Bodies are nothing. They're not worth anything at all. And they will disappear. And you will know that you will last forever. I think the Course says something like, when your body and your dreams are gone, you will know that you will last forever, because that's how you were created. I'm still as God created me. I am not a body. I am free. I am free of bodies. I don't have a body. I am not a body. This body is not myself, and it doesn't exist. There are no bodies. There is only what God created in His kingdom. You are not your body. Wakey, wakey. You are a mortal spirit. And you live forever. And no one has ever died. There is no death. The Son of God is free. So carry on pretending to be a body. Go get yourself, your body, something to eat. have a little drink for your body, and then go watch some other bodies do some body things, and wonder to yourself, is this all there is? Is this what God wanted for me? Is this the fullness of my being? Is this what I am? Is this my life? God bless, and see you with my body next time. Bye.